spoilers for Mandalorian season 3 in the middle of this.
I'm ready for that. Property.
Okay, you guys said you were the coolest yet on the seasons, but still enjoyed it. That was the read.
Yeah, I still love the show. It was my least favorite season for sure. Like a few of the big things didn't hold together as well as I thought, and I probably chalked that up to rewriting after the Rangers of the New Republic show got canceled.
Okay.
So I think they had to incorporate some of that stuff in here.
Like just the town being built up. I'm trying to think of like...
Yeah, Moff Gideon escaping off screen.
Right.
And then a lot of like, New Republic backstory type stuff. That there's that whole episode that was really showing what the New Republic is and some of the problems with it.
Yeah.
And all that.
Oh, like when they were doing like the reforming of former Imperials.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, but still torturing them.
Right.
Kind of and stuff.
By the way, in that episode on Coruscant, maybe I'm out of my mind. Maybe it's on the internet now, but like for a couple weeks after that episode, I was like, well, it's crazy that no one's commenting on like Phil Tippett had a cameo on Coruscant where he was like a magician. He had like a dragon thing. And it's like a quick cutaway to it.
It was some other guy from
wasn't Phil Tippett?
Historical ILM.
Wait, really?
Yeah.
Huh.
You know this?
Yes.
Because I rewound it. I'm like, oh, I think that's Phil Tippett. And then I was looking around online and I couldn't find anything about it. I'm like, how does the internet, who just rings everything of The Mandalorian, not talk about this?
Yeah, it's not Phil Tippett, but it's probably somebody he's friends with.
Really?
Yes. Yep.
Did you notice this? Did you just knew it?
No,
seeing it?
I didn't know it. I read it somewhere.
Oh, okay. So it is online somewhere.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well, I'll be
Little
damned.
Easter egg rundown.
Yeah. But there was a cool Phil Tippett Mad God like monster eyeball
Right,
thing,
right.
which was really cool.
Yeah.
Not that I think he
That
did
was sweet.
anything with that, but it was just a cool Phil Tippett inspired thing. I thought.
Phil Tippett inspired thing. Yeah.
But that one is by.
By the way, I gotta cut you off. Just to let everybody know, I feel like we need to set the scene maybe a little bit more for the level of Star Wars dorkery. No offense. I mean, with compliments.
You've been calling me the Star Wars guy for years.
Yeah. These guys have read, like, Ross has read the book that takes place between Jedi Fallen Order and Jedi Survivor. They've read how many of the High Republic books at this point?
Pretty much all of them.
How many is that?
Close to 10, probably.
Jesus Christ!
But some of them are pretty short.
I think it's more than 10.
What?
It feels like it's more than 10.
Okay.
Maybe 15 plus?
Can't be more than 15, right?
But the kicker is they say they're all bad. And they keep reading High Republic Star Wars books.
I know there are a lot of High Republic fans out there, and I don't want to anger them.
Are they?
Yeah.
Okay. What do they see
It's
in it?
not for me as much as it is for other people, I think.
What do they see in High Republic that isn't quite there for everybody else?
I'm interested in this perspective as well.
That's a great question. I think they like a world where there's no movie characters, no pre-established characters other than Yoda.
Okay.
And theoretically anything could happen. My argument is that not much does happen. There could be a lot more that happens with that setup.
And the idea is they're just kind of saving everything for the Acolyte TV show. And that's when they can kind of kick it in and, hey, here's Sith now. Look at this crazy stuff.
Yeah, like they're not doing Sith stuff because of Acolyte. But I think, this line of books and this storyline, which is like probably like 80 years before the Acolyte or something like that.
Okay.
It's going to wrap up with its own, with all its own characters and stuff like that. So it's not like there won't be any kind of resolution.
Yeah.
But, it's got a long way to go to win me back into it, I think.
Sure.
Yeah, I think it's not like there aren't surprises like Game of Thrones style, like murders, but they just are always introducing new characters, and at some point you just can't tell any of them apart.
Oh, God.
And they're just kind of like waves crashing against the rocks. It's like, that Jedi's dead. Okay. I don't even remember what they're made. Like sometimes they have like, there's one right now that has a shield, and like sometimes they just have like, one has like a whip, lightsaber. So like,
remember me for my whip.
I'm the whip lightsaber one.
Yeah.
And like, other than that, so hard to tell anyone apart.
Yeah, they could do a lot better job of differentiating the Jedi characters, particularly, which is like, 80% of the characters.
They all have the same brain. They're all like turbo dorks that are always about following rules. And if one slightly gets out of that mode and breaks the rules just even a little bit, I'm just like, oh, Finally, something different.
Some character. Did you like Mandalorian season 3?
I did. I mean, I enjoy the, Mandalore's out there. There was all that confusion in season 1, right? Of like, what's this talk about? Don't take your helmet off. Like all these other shows, they're taking their helmets off willy-nilly.
Like Clone Wars?
Who cares? Yeah.
Okay.
And to be able to kind of explain that over time, bring everybody together, and then we get to not only see Mandalore, but we get to see them, a huge force of cool armored people all work together to take it back and slowly rebuild. Isn't this like your Civilization PC games where you can build it back up? And
Mandalorian season 3 is like Age of Empires. I never thought of that. That's interesting.
Yeah.
No, I don't know.
It's something they had to do, but it obviously they set it up to kind of bring it back, hopefully, to just Mando and Baby Yoda. And
I hope so. Yeah, I don't want to be too.
Or it's just
too
over
down
forever. I mean,
Yeah, it felt like a series finale to me,
Right?
actually.
but then they said that like they could keep going forever with this story. I feel like it didn't.
Favreau said that he has written a 4th season. So you have to assume that that's getting back.
By the way, he said in press reports and interviews, he spent 4 hours writing the scripts on this one. So look out.
He had a writing assistant credited in the season, I believe.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah, so that doesn't surprise me either. But yeah, overall, some things didn't hang together quite as well. And for me, like season 2 is like just like my favorite Star Wars thing other than the original trilogy.
Wait, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, what's better than that?
Just for the Luke stuff?
I mean, that was great. But the whole season I thought was awesome. Just
Wow.
Yeah, it was great episode after great episode. It like expanded the scope so much from the first season.
Like more than Andor, you like it?
Yeah. I mean, Andor is great in a very different way. But I love Mandalorian because there'll be an entire episode about a giant bird that like takes kids and flies off with them.
Right.
And they got to climb up to the nest, and there's little baby birds that are going to eat the kid. It's like
it feels like Clone Wars. It feels just kind of like silly adventures.
Yeah,
in
there's
live
a Clone
action.
Wars adventure here, but probably 10 times more expensive.
Yes. Yeah.
And my favorite part of that episode, by the way, is that the bird flies off with the kid, and the Mandalorians are like, "Oh man, it happened again."
Son of a gun!
They keep taking these kids. There's nothing we can do.
Get out of
Our
here.
jetpacks don't have enough fuel.
Yeah.
They were just ran out willy-nilly, but like I'm monitoring every jetpack fuel level from that point on to every other mission. I'm like, seems to be lasting pretty well
Did
for
not
this
come
thing.
into play.
Not irrelevant. Yeah, I don't want to be too down on it because like I think that art is awesome. Like the design team for Mandalorian, I want to kiss them. I think all of that looks incredible. I feel like the scripts are like beyond first draft. Just like, I don't know. And then they say this is the way, and then they say what's that, and then they look. It's just like, other than the line "this is the way," I don't think there's personally been a single impactful line or, dare I say, interesting line in all of the Mandalorian.
It is very utilitarian dialogue.
Yes.
Like almost to a fault, even more so than like George Lucas dialogue, I
Yes.
think. Which is saying something.
Because it's not especially funny either. And like, say what you want about Lucas, but I mean, New Hope's really funny. Like, there's funny stuff in those movies. But it's still like,
I think Baby Yoda gets to be a little bit of comic
there's some
relief,
physical
right?
gags. That's true. That's
The
true.
yes, no.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's a joke that they wrote.
Baby's first mech suit.
That's right. They had to do it. But yeah, I think it's just this problem of like, for Mandalorian, and we'll get back to Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, but it's just this problem of like, what I personally don't care about Mandalore. I don't care about reclaiming it. I don't care about the factions. I care about, and I'm sorry to be so simplistic, I care that the helmets look cool. I think Boba Fett looked cool, and I like jetpacks. That's as much as you're getting out of me, and I like Star Wars. So this idea of like the different factions, the Mandalorian, like at a certain point, I remember listening to another podcast where somebody just brought up the idea of just like, in all of season 3, I don't know what Grogu and the Mandalorian want at any point, which is, writing 101, I get it, but it is just that conundrum of like, what are we doing? Like, we're just kind of attaching our wagon to, we need to reclaim Mandalore? It's like, I don't care about that at all.
Yeah, I think a big idea that I don't think came through for a lot of people was two different like belief systems. People who are largely the same but have two different belief systems coming together and understanding each other. And I think
a little bit like America, Ross.
Yeah, a little bit like America. If only we could all decide whether we want our helmets on or off.
If that was the biggest choice we faced.
Yes. Because Bo-Katan and Mando at the start of the season are both like, hey, you're not a Mandalorian, you're not a Mandalorian,
right,
blah, blah,
right.
blah. And then they have a couple of adventures together where they like see each other's strengths and stuff, like the first one below the surface of Mandalore, and then the ridiculous episode with Jack Black and Lizzo,
Right.
Christopher Walken.
Right.
My biggest disappointment of the season, by the way, that Christopher Walken did not get to finish.
Christopher
his-
Lloyd?
No. Christopher Lloyd.
Sorry. Thank you.
Whoa.
Thank you.
Just to be fair, you do love the 80s, and you gotta go, dude. You gotta leave.
out.
What are you doing?
At first, I was like, am I wrong? No. Was he in there as like voicing a weird alien or something?
Ross, king of the 80s, cannot be doing this.
Yeah, my biggest disappointment that he did not get to finish his speech about the politics of Count Dooku. I was ready to hear more of that.
Yeah.
It didn't happen.
That's good stuff.
But yeah, that episode got us more into like Mando and Bo-Katan like teaming up and overcoming their differences in a lot of ways. And I was disappointed that it just ended with him giving her the Darksaber on a technicality. That was like,
Yeah.
that, you know, I wish that had kind of been resolved earlier in the season, maybe, so there could have been more drama surrounding it, because it was a real letdown that he was like, well, guess what? A few episodes ago, I got beaten up, and she beat up the person who beat up me, so it's cool for her to have it. But, yeah.
What'd you think about
Why didn't you give it to her then, Mando?
Yep.
Why didn't you do
Come
that?
on, Mando. What'd you think about R5 having jetpack secretly the whole time?
Somebody must have fixed those up, because they have
Okay.
been past warranty by now.
It's funny. I feel like, was it episode 2 where R2 has the jetpacks for the first time? And I feel like everyone's like, oh, okay, that's so lame. And now R5's flying around. I feel like no one's batting an eye. Like, well, of course. I mean, the dumbest droid of all time. Of course, he also has super cool tech hidden away. Whatever.
Oh, yeah. That was fun to see him get attacked by those little mouser droids.
Right. Right.
He's so scared of them, and they can do nothing to him except knock into him at 3 miles per hour.
Yes.
It's just it's the further evolution or de-evolution, high evolution, if you will, of just like the absurdity of Star Wars. Of like, if I would have pitched you Mandalorian season 3 in the 90s and would have been like, okay, there's a TV show and it stars a guy who looks like Boba Fett, and then there's like a little version of Yoda, and they fly around in a ship, and then R5 is their navigational droid.
Yes.
This is absurd, but I think I'm on board for it.
Yep, the baby Yoda is driving an IG-88 from Empire Strikes
That's
Back.
right. That's right. Did you know that you can more than double the amount of podcasts from MinnMax every single week by supporting us at the $5 tier on Patreon? You don't have to listen through the browser or anything dumb like that. You'll get access to a private RSS feed if you support us on Patreon. You put it in your favorite podcast app, and then bam, you can listen to our weekly bonus podcast Party Chat, the podcast versions of The Deepest Dives, MinnMax interviews, Max spoilers, and you get the MinnMax Show podcast a day earlier than everybody else. So please help support independent games media. Head over to patreon.com/MinnMax with 2 N's.